Welcome back to the, oh, wait, did I name it at the beginning of the last one? It's ABL Review. ABL Podcast with Dakota. Those just don't happen much anymore. Anyways, here we are, ABL Review for Season 21 of the North Division. And this time we're reviewing, I don't like how this is framed. I don't like that you can see the time and stuff, but if I gotta go all the way down there to cut off the time, but then you can see the stuff at the top, and I don't like that. And yeah, I could do this to cut out all that, and that looks better. But then when we come over to the draft board, I scroll over, how much of Dakota's team can you see? Pretty much none of it, so that's a problem. Okay, I'll address that later. Here we go, let's talk about the teams. So, it started a little bit later with the North draft, but still got into it. Now, this is post ad drops. I'm recording this after the ad drops happened, so really it's Kyle's team that is the biggest. Yeah, Kyle's team's really the only change, so we can kind of go over that. We'll open up with that. Also, this is after Terras have been put in. You can tell when I'm recording this, not only because of the time that was at the bottom, but also just based on the fact that Terras just went in. So, we'll lead off with Kyle's team. He led off strong with Annihilate. So just a reminder, Annihilate can use Rage Fist. But we figured since it can't Terra and you're going to know how to hit it super effectively, I think it's manageable. It's still good, for sure, but it's manageable. So this Enamorous wasn't originally Enamorous, it was Mew. Iron Moth, so Enamorous Eye and Iron Moth, I think are probably two of the most potent special attackers in the draft format. Iron Moth has got like, what, 145 special attack? Enamorous isn't crazy. I want to say it's like 115 or something. Let's hop over here. This is how I should be framing it, right? This is what I should be doing. 135, yeah, plus like Moonblast is real strong, Earth Power is great, Mystical Fire is good, has access to Calm Mind. It can I don't think the Contrary set is as good, but you can still use it for sure. 140, no, 45. So yeah, he's got two of the most potent special attackers in the league, and Glaceon is also here. So, so this Enamorous originally was Mew. Mew's a great support mon. Well, it used to be a great support mon. Now I think really its more viable sets involve setup, which it gets a lot of, like, it's got the bulk to get at least one setup opportunity out. And then it's got the move set to customize to be able to attack, but it just doesn't have that raw power that you really want out of your setup sweepers. So I think this is a good idea for him to change, at least for the Mew, and Enamorous, we'll get into the rest of it. Iron Treads, I think, man, so I never used Iron Treads, but obviously it's kind of like Excadrill traded attack for speed. I think that's really dumbing it down, because also it doesn't get Swords Dance, it doesn't get stuff like Mold Breaker, but it does get Volt Switch, which I do think is important. And it's got, I think, probably comparable defenses, maybe even a little bit better on like the defensive side. So I really love Iron Treads for that. Salament's one of the most potent offensive setup sweepers in the game. You pair that with Annihilate, I think it's going to be hard to check the combination of these two. Blastoise, I'm so torn on. Like, I think back when it got Refresh and Toxic, I thought it was a really reliable, like, low tier spinner. Doesn't get Refresh or Toxic anymore, so it has lost a lot of survivability. But now it has Shell Smash, which Shell Smash, I would say, arguably the best setup move in the game. Top 3 for sure. I'd say top 3 for sure. But I've never been blown away by Blastoise's sweeping capabilities with Shell Smash. Kricketune is here. Just doing Kricketune things, but also that was an ad drop. I'll address that in a second. Actually, Salamence might have been an ad drop too. Farigiraf, I actually really like the Farigiraf pick. I think it pairs really well with Annihilate. I like that pairing a lot. Plus, you want it, like, this thing passes pretty big wishes, and I think it can reliably do so. Plus the fact that this can be a Terramon and he can really customize it to deal with the things he needs to deal with. I love that. And it doesn't have a terrible special attack, and I really like these defensive pivoty Pokemon when they have Future Sight, and like it's a stab Future Sight, even uninvested coming off 110 special attack isn't gonna tickle. So it definitely deals with steel types, but Kyle has a lot of options to deal with steel types between Treads, Moth, Annihilate. And also Knackle Stack. Didn't really mention Baby Salt. The ability to, if it can be in versus something, and a steel type might want to come in on it, also a water type might want to come in on it, it does have access to Salt Cure. So that can definitely be an effective way to kind of wear folks down. Something I did in the South, let's take a look at these weaknesses. I gotta tell you, I remember looking at this type chart before he made the changes, and it was absolutely littered with these red boxes. Now we've only got it in rock, and like I said for the South, and we'll let's examine it in the North. Let's see how many offensive rock type threats there are. Not really any on his team. I'm not going to count Knackle Stack. Macargo's not really a big offensive threat. Garganacci, also not a big offensive threat. And also I think Garganacle's a lot easier to deal with if you can see it coming, and it can't Terra, so not gonna count that as a threat. Tyranitar definitely is an offensive threat. But he's got ways to deal with Tyranitar, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's not too much of a terrible thing for him. Probopass is not offensive. Sorry, the first one always takes a long time, guys. You're not going to be able to see Dakota's. Rhyperior's offensive, but we'll see how that goes. I'm curious to see, like, that could pose a problem for him. And also, you can't see it, but on Dakota's team, he does have Cleavor. You can see me highlighted off to the side there. Cleavor could end up being a problem for his team because he does have quite a few weaknesses to rock, and he's got 2 resists. He's got the Iron Treads, which Cleavor and Rhyperior, and there's another one, T-Tar. All of those can deal with it pretty well. Annihilate resists. Honestly, those are really good things because it wants to come in on those rock hits. So honestly, maybe this might end up working to his advantage. People are going to be throwing out rock type moves, and he can come in with Annihilate and get that Rage Fist boost. Could be a big help. We'll see. But other than that, no red boxes. Let's see any issues down here. He's got 2 rapid spinners. By the way, for those of you who did watch the South already and you heard me bitch and moan the entire time about how nobody in the South has hazard control, everyone in the North has multiple forms of hazard control. So that's super, super exciting. Shift that over just a bit. Yeah, it's about the same place it was. In terms of hazard, he's got a couple of rockers. I really think the only problem is I don't think he's going to want to bring Knackle Stack a lot. I don't think he's going to want to put Stealth Rocks on Annihilate, so that does kind of leave the burden heavily on Iron Treads' shoulders to kind of be this utility Pokemon. He's got Toxic Spikes, took Kricketune for Sticky Webs. Glaceon's also, I didn't mention Glaceon. Glaceon is a potent special attacker with Ice Beam and Freeze Dry. That's like most of the coverage you need for everything. How much does it cost to Terra Glaceon? 4 points. 4 points, I think, like that's pretty good. The only problem with that is if he wants to Terra Glaceon, he can still only pair it with, like, he could go like, Glaceon Electrode, and then he can go Nachi Stack. But just the way his team is structured in terms of what he can do with his points for Terras, it's a little bit restrictive. And he used a whole bunch of his ad drops to do it. He lost Mabostiff, he lost Scizor, and Iron Tread's actually a late addition. That's interesting. And then traded Thwacky for Glaceon. Overall, I think these things made his team better for sure. I don't know if I guess I'll touch on it just a little bit because some people may see it as controversial. I don't know. And also, I don't know if Kyle does or if he was just kind of trolling with the taking away the, like, hey, you don't just get free ad drops at the end of the draft, because we had it explicitly put in there because it said we had it so people could adjust to the new salary structure. By the time we took the rule away, Kyle had made his first 3 picks. So I think that, yeah, so most people, we were only in the top 3 rounds. I would say if you, in the first 3 rounds, took picks that you were planning on dropping with free transactions, I just feel like that's an insane draft strategy, and I have a hard time really feeling for you. But tell me if you think that if I really screwed somebody over, and why, because I don't know. I don't see it, but hopefully we can just move past that for next season. Moving on. We're going to talk about the Alabama Crimson Hive. This team's all over the fucking place. I don't think it's bad by any means, but this team is just kind of wild because he's got so many steel types and so many fire types. A lot of redundancy here, which I think may end up being a little bit difficult. He also has got 2 rapid spinners, got a plethora of Stealth Rocks users, that's great. A couple of Spikes users, even Toxic Spikes, doesn't have Sticky Web, but that's fine. Not a ton of Switch Initiative, but the Pokemon that he does have it on are really reliable, like they can fit it on a moveset very easily. So I actually think that's a big benefit. Decent priority moves, I mean Fake Out's not really, but decent priority moves. Yeah, I think he's got pretty much all the stuff he'd want. Short of Wish Passer, but like I've said before, Wish Passing's really hard to do, so I can't really hold too much against it. But before we get into the Pokemon, let's talk about the weaknesses. These fighting and ground, those are big time weaknesses. Those are super crucial. Those are 2 of the most common offensive types in the game. And sure, you have 2 immunities to fighting, and then you have 2 resists, and they're pretty reliable ones. Actually, this is Brambleghast. Why is it showing? Oh, that's ground. Whoops. Yeah, but that's good. And then fighting, you have 3 resists: Alchemy, Dragonite, Salazzle's not really a resist, and then Brambleghast immunity. So you definitely have some ways to play around it. But I don't think it's a big surprise that he has Bug as 2 of his Terra types, because it resists both fighting and ground. And then he's got 3 Ghosts to take care of fighting types, and then a Poison to take care of a fighting type, and a Fairy to take care of a fighting type. Like that's not a big shocker, I would say. Maybe mitigated a little bit by Orthworm because it does have that immunity. Like, if Orthworm's around, people are going to be really stingy on throwing off Earthquakes. But I would imagine Logan might have felt he should rethink what he was doing. Just having so many of the same types can definitely be detrimental, especially when they're not like... I've talked about like offensive type redundancy a lot. Like having 2 offensive water types is helpful because they'll kind of break for each other. I think having multiple defensive types doesn't really do the same thing. Like Salazzle and Volcanion are not really going to bash on 2 fire types because they're both offensive enough that they're going to break for each other. So I do think that he's a little bit hampered by the fact that he's got 3 steel types. Only one of them's really offensive. I think he might find some difficulty there. Anything else I want to touch on? He's got 2 grass types. Oh yeah, Brambleghast and Zarude. They're not really... Like, Brambleghast I don't think is going to be super offensive most weeks. I could be wrong there, but, you know, that's just my take on it. But I love Salazzle. Real fast. Like, that's a good speed to have. Like, 117... Like, a lot of teams probably get, like, 1 Pokemon above the 110 mark. And granted, he's got that here, but Salazzle's, like, at a good spot where... it's chasing those Pokemon in the 120 tier, and even at 130, like 130 speed tier Pokemon can't really afford to run Modest unless they think Salazzle's not going to run max speed. It's a chasing speed tier. So I think that's good. Zarude, we've seen some good things out of Zarude in the past. I really like what Brambleghast brings to the table. That Ghost Grass typing is actually really good. I think it's a really good typing to have around. Great Tusk is probably going to come to every game Logan plays this season. It's just so splashable on a team. If you need like just a Pokemon to take a bunch of hits, a Pokemon to throw off decent damage, a spinner, a stealth rocker, it can fill so many different roles. It's like Lando 2.0. Dragonite. We have not seen Dragonite really make a big splash in the league in a pretty long time, I feel. Even it was available in the Terra, like free Terra meta, and I don't remember seeing a lot of people use it. Like 134 base attack right off the bat is like very good. Speed's not crazy, but it is probably one of the easiest Pokemon to Dragon Dance with. And Logan has decent enough hazard clearing where he might be able to get away a couple of weeks without running heavy duty boots on it. Just have a free like have an item along with what he's doing. He could go Lumberry like the good old days before boots existed. And just go ahead and take that free opportunity to set up hazards, or not set up hazards. Have hazards be gone, set up a Dragon Dance, and start busting through people. Volcanion's tough. I like Volcanion, but almost everyone has a Dragon type, and it kind of struggles against Dragon types a little bit. Like, if it can fire off that Steam Eruption and get a burn on an incoming Dragon type, great. It's got decent coverage. I wish it still got Defog, but especially with all the Fire type Pokemon he has, and Ground type Pokemon, like he's got a Ground type there too. Having extra water immunity is a big help. Magneton, I love everything from this line. I mean, I've never used Magnemite, but I'm sure if we played Little Cup, I'd like it. Magneton's great. I think it's an especially good Terramon because it just gives you more coverage than you would have otherwise had. It's a big help. 120 special attack is nothing to be scoffed at. Speed tier of 70, obviously a little bit slow, but kind of right there in the sweet spot. And if there's nothing you want to trap, then you can always just run Analytic, and if people switch in on you, you get that little extra boost. Like, Specs Analytic Magneton is nothing to fuck with. It's a scary Pokemon. Orthworm. Orthworm is the type of Pokemon that I like, in the sense that it just has such a crazy defensive stat that it's just like, he can bring this in. He'll be able to bring this in on like, okay, I'm just gonna pick a random team. We'll go with the Drew's team. Like, oh, the Gliscor's not a good example. Okay, with Hisuian Decidueye. Hisuian Decidueye has a super effective hit against it. It can go for triple arrows. I bet you triple arrows definitely doesn't 2-hit KO it. It might 3-hit KO it if it's like fully fit. Like if it's fully Fizz Def Orthworm, I bet you it's not 3-hit KO'd by triple arrows. It's so defensive that it kind of doesn't matter. It's just like, this is going to be my Pokemon to take all the defensive hits today. And it's going to have the opportunity to get up a couple layers of spikes, a couple layers of stealth rocks. I think it's pretty good. And plus that, like I said before, that Earth Eater Earthquake immunity is going to make some teams think twice. Alchemy is one of those Pokemon that I've always loved on paper. Calm Mind, Alluring Voice / Draining Kiss, Recover, Stored Power. I feel like it gets Thunderbolt or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Obviously, like, it's just like your quintessential like defensive setup fairy. Like, it doesn't have Wish Pass, but it's a better wall fairy than most fairies because it has access to Recover. Like, I do think it's not the same because it doesn't have the same support moves and the same move pool, but it's kind of more akin to a poor man's Clefable. Just in like, and plus it's got Sweet Veil, so it can't be taunted. I think it's the right move. Yeah, I think it's got. No, what's its abilities do? We're gonna look into it together. Not Alchemy, Alcremie. Maybe I hope it's not one of those Pokemon that has like useless abilities. Aroma Veil can't be taunted. Yeah, like, I think that's super helpful in a Pokemon of its ilk. So I'm hoping to see he's using this well. Empoleon. So Empoleon's tough because it doesn't have Defog anymore. It doesn't have Stealth Rock in it. Those were like the two things it was known for. Dakota would always famously say, like, sarcastically, he would say, oh yeah, Empoleon's great. You can set up Stealth Rocks first turn against your opponent's Stealth Rocks, then you can defog your rocks away. I would argue you do it in the opposite order, but that's just me. But Empoleon's role has kind of changed to be much more of a defensive pivot. It's got a lot of great resists. It can come in on those resisted hits and roost up if it needs to, and then flip turn out with its speed tier. It's awesome at doing that. It also now has competitive instead of defiance, so it can come in on a defog and boost up that special attack. Just do a little bit of extra damage. That's awesome. Also, Empoleon is, because it's only got the 2 weaknesses. It's only weak to ground and fighting. Brambleghast covers those perfectly. Brambleghast, what is it weak to? It's weak to fire, ice, flying, rock, and dragon. Empoleon resists or is neutral to all of those. Like, that's a really nice pair. And he's got a couple more of those, like, kind of team-up things going on. Lucario. Okay. Lucario is a Pokemon I've always thought should somehow be better. Just because 120 defense, and it's got access to recover. Fire's not a bad defensive type, folks. It really isn't. It has to worry about rocks, which is really its biggest downside. This has got to worry about, 4 times weakness to rocks and 4 times weakness to water. Big problem. But in this day and age where you can terrestrialize stuff, its terrible typing goes away, and it can just become a fairy type with that defense and access to recover. Logan actually has a very good amount of reliable recovery. He's got on 1, 2, 3, 4. I would count Strength Sap. 5, 6 Pokemon have access to reliable recovery. I think he's probably going to have a good time with his team. I would imagine to see some of these steel types get moved at some point this season, but also nobody steps on each other's dick as far as these steel types go. Like, Magneton and Orthworm don't do the same thing. Orthworm and Empoleon don't do the same thing. Empoleon and Magneton don't do the same thing. So it's not like you plan for one, you plan for all, which is awesome for this team. Do you think maybe there's a little bit of negative synergy, and if you can plan for Volcanion and plan for Magneton, then you can kind of plan for Empoleon as well? Maybe a little bit of a problem there, but at least you're planning, like, at least it's something you have to take into consideration, right? I don't think anything here, except for maybe Lucario, is something that you can write off, right? Okay, taking a long time, but we're going to move on to the next one. We've got the New England Patrats and Jabron. So I'm kind of like, I haven't really done big breakdowns into this team before I hop into this, so I got to do some. I'm worried. So Rock, don't care about that. Fairy, everything in its mom terrestrializes Fairy. People are gonna have Fairy moves. You only have 1 resist, which is Iron Crown, which is good. It's a good Fairy resist, to be sure, but I think that you might find some issues with the Fairy types floating around. Ice is one of the more prevalent offensive types, but also, as I looked through before, I'm not sure. I'm starting to think like the fallacy of Ice may be something like floated from a long time before, where Ice is this great offensive type, and it is a good offensive type, but it's not as omnipresent as it used to be because nothing has hidden power Ice anymore. I don't think there's a lot of big threatening Ice type attackers that float around anymore. Like, let's see. Glaceon, meh. Nothing on Logan's team. Nothing on Jabron's own team. No ice types on the Dallas Drills. Beartic, okay, that's a scary one because of chilly reception, which we'll talk about later. No ice types here. No ice types here. Sneak over and get a. You can. I don't know if you can see on Dakota's team. The only ice type he's got is Regice. I'm starting to devalue ice in my own mind. I just don't think it's as scary as it used to be. So maybe we can deal with that. Fighting, I've already gone over why the fighting thing might be an issue. Steel is a little bit of an issue. Or sorry, poison is a little bit of an issue because the fact that you're putting a lot of pressure on Iron Crown to have to switch in and take some hits. And also Garganacl, but Garganacl's also great because it can't be statused. I think that poison type might threaten it a little bit, but thankfully, I'm not even going to go check. Poison's not a very common offensive like type to threaten. So I think he might be okay there, especially because he does have ways to deal with it offensively and things like Galarian Articuno, and Gouging Fire is going to be able to deal with it because it's going to have Earthquake a lot of the time. Okay, now that the weaknesses are covered, let's break down what we got going on here on the team. Iron Crown, great special attacker. Galarian Articuno, great special attacker. Clawitzer and Enamorous Therian, both great special attackers. Arboliva, he showed us last season's Pokemon's pretty good. He actually, like, Jabron has a really well put together, especially offensive roster. I think he's really going to be threatening a lot. Like, that's a really good mix there. And also, like, Lurantis, well, I didn't bring it up, but Leaf Storm's a strong stab move, okay? It's not going to kill resists or anything on the first one. The second one, you start to get a little bit scared. And you can go ahead and you can switch in a steel type to be able to take that hit, and you can switch it up and go for a superpower. So this is, did we have Malamar in the South? I can't remember. I'm actually surprised we're not seeing a Stellar here. I still don't think Stellar is like the greatest thing, but I really thought we might see it utilized on the contrary Pokemon. On the physical side, he's a lot weaker. Like, Gouging Fire is great. It's a good, powerhouse physical setup for sure. But I've seen the bulky set really be in vogue lately. Passimian, I think, is underrated as a physically offensive Pokemon. Not going to see Enamorous T do it. Lurantis, you might see do it. I definitely think there's a little bit of lacking on the physical offensive side. He doesn't have that, like, outside of Passimian, he doesn't have that initial, like, boom, powerhouse hit. If you can overcome the the thing is, special offense comes at a premium. Like, these Pokemon are hard to put together a roster with this many good special attackers. But I do think physical attack, if it's the right combination of, like, good special defensive Pokemon, he's gonna have a hard time breaking through it with Gouging Fire if it can't set up or has to take a setup turn, and then just Passimian. Gonna have to play pretty smart. I would say the biggest drawback of this team is only the one rocker in Garganacl. If he loses it early, or it has to play a role where it can't run Stealth Rock, or it's just he's going up against a team with great hazard control, he might just not play a lot of games with rocks, right? And also against his team, you're gonna want to run Assault Vest a lot of the time to be able to take some of these special hits. And you don't have to, that means you're not going to be able to run Boots, but that's not as big of a problem if you have to switch around a lot because you only have the one rocker. That means Stealth Rock and Recover are going to be two of Garganacl's moves pretty much every week. You could throw Salt Cure in there as another likely one. That really limits what he can do with this mon. If you're running the Curse set, you're going to drop Stealth Rocks, right? You're not going to be Curse plus Stealth Rocks. That's fine. But maybe you want Protect, try to wear stuff down. Sorry. Wear stuff down with Salt Cure a little bit and get a little bit of leftovers recovery back. That's a problem because now you're out of moves and your only offensive move is a 25 base power rock move. That might be a problem for him. I would imagine he's going to use ad drops to pick up more hazards at some point. He does have the clears in Morpeko, who I like, and Lurantis, who I'm iffy on. I don't want to underestimate Lurantis, but I just don't think it's an every week type of month. He has stuff like Rotom Wash, Gouging Fire, Iron Crown, Enamorous T, Garganacl. Like, those are Pokemon you're going to want to bring most weeks. Then you have to justify bringing Lurantis over Arboliva. It might be an issue for him. I think he's a really good battler, but I do think this team's kind of got him in a little bit of a box potentially. See how it goes. Also, not the strongest priority. Speed tiers. Ooh, I didn't even look at the speed tiers. Ooh, that's a slow team. Nothing breaking 100's an issue. And no Sticky Weber to support that. How's our Trick Room options look? Amorous might get it. Galarian Articuno might, maybe, I don't know. This might be an issue for him, the fact that he's got little to no priority. Nothing breaking 100 speed. No sticky web. Limited hazards. This is going to be an uphill battle for him. This is going to be a tough team to win with, I think. He's got some Thunder Wave support, but... Ooh. I didn't realize that. Good luck, Jabron. I think I like a lot of the Pokemon on your team individually, but I don't know if they gel, right? Okay, moving on. Next up, we got the newly established Dallas Drills. This is funny, I was talking to Logan, and he's just like, you know what, Zach's less threatening as the Dallas Drills. Like, I know to be afraid of the New York Aqua Jets, but I haven't learned to be afraid of the Dallas Drills yet. I thought that was really funny. You know, nice to love seeing red teams in the league. I like red. Drill's a great mon. And we got another team back in Dallas. It's a good market to hit. But let's hop into this team. Okay, again, 2 spinners, 2 forms of hazard clearing. Love that. Look at the plethora of hazard stackers. Love that. Good switch initiative. Not bad. Oh, also something missing from the hazard setters. He's probably got one of the best hazard setters in the league in the Suing Samurai. We'll dive more into him later. But let's get back to this. Million knockoff users. Not going to be able to go like stall against this team. Not only because stall's bad anymore, but look at all the taunters to shut stuff down. So many different status setters. This team has got so many tools at its disposal. Like, the only thing it's really missing is Toxic Spike Sticky Web. Probably would like a defog, but, you know, who's to say? Maybe a little bit more priority would be nice, but splitting hairs. Let's hop into the team proper. Tornadus T. I have been bringing up Tornadus T a lot when talking to people, specifically because I've been talking about Cyclozar, who I think we see later. I think that Tornadus T has one of the... Tornadus T has like one of the best like move pool packages, along with like typing and ability that I think you could possibly want. Like, I mean, it used to at least, because it had like defog, knockoff, U-turn, taunt or toxic, and then regenerator plus heavy duty boots. It was just a menace. Then it got nasty plot, but now it's lost toxic, defog, and I guess that's really it. And we'll get into the Cyclozar shit later. But still has a great speed tier. Has access to nasty plot. Stab hurricanes. What else does it have? It's got like Sludge Wave, I would assume still. Probably Dark Pulse, I think it gets. Focus Blast, Heat Wave. So a high risk, high reward on this mon. It's got plenty of setup opportunities because of that regenerator. And it still can be really annoying to just be able to soak up hits because it's got pretty good bulk at like 79, 80, 90. That's like right in that range you want to be. Got good resistances, only weak to the rock, ice, and electric. But there's plenty of things on this team that deal with that. So I love Tornadus T being here. Monkey Dory is a Pokemon I really like. Just like an offensively really kind of wacky combination between Psychic and Poison. Obviously shut down by Steels, but I think it gets Focus Blast to deal with that. And just like 130 special attack's really good, especially with the 106 speed to back it up. I think this also gets Nasty Plot, though I never fucking see it, so maybe it doesn't. It just feels like it should, and I don't want to check right now. He's got something over that 120 mark. He's got something in that 106 range. Probably wants something like, I think ideally there'd be something between like 110 and 120, but we don't have it. Not a huge deal. That's prime real estate. But I like the chunks he's got going all the way down. Hisuian Samurott. This Pokemon is, I'm so excited to see it. Sharpness plus Ceaseless Edge plus Aqua Cutter plus Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword? Yes, that's the one. It's just pretty strong, pretty fast, and even if you switch in a Fairy type on this Pokemon's Ceaseless Edge, that means spikes are going up. Need to bring Hazard Clearing versus this team because they're just going to get up by accident. Like, Zach doesn't even need all the good stealth or like hazard setters he has, because he's got Isu and Samurott, which will just get them up by being around. Good to see Raging Bolt come back. I was just like, oh man, he's got more priority than that. He's got Raging Bolt. I did the same thing in the South video. I keep forgetting why put Thunderclap on there if only Raging Bolt gets it. Love Serena, and Poundstone and Sandslash paired with T-Tar. This Sand Core here is really gonna fuck with people's speed calcs, because overall the team like covers his bases pretty well. But typically when I'm calcing and I get down into the 60s, I go like, oh, these Pokemon aren't gonna run speed anyways. No, they are gonna run speed, because if Sand is up, they get that big boost. It's gonna be tough to deal with because it's gonna force people to run Scarfers they don't want to. Also, I don't like seeing Tinkaton on his team. I remember when he had it last time and I hated facing it, but I don't have to anymore. This team's got a lot of good tools, and I don't think anybody hurts each other. Like, in Charizard, ooh. That means Charizard gets a rock move, because it's gonna, if the Sand is up, he's gonna be able to run Weather Ball with rock. I think that's great. I think there's a couple of Weather Ballers here. There's a lot of stuff to like here. And then there's Munchlax. Munchlax is kind of a nothing Pokemon. I always look at it and be like, look at all that HP. It's got thick fat, so it's got extra resists. It can hold an Eviolite, so it can get kind of bulky. But then what? Now you have a Munchlax there. It can't toxic stuff anymore. Maybe it still could toxic. I don't think it can. Probably can't toxic stuff anymore. Like, all you're going to be doing is bringing it in fishing for Body Slam paras, right? Yeah. One tier is pretty dull and pretty hard to find something you want to take in there, but also it just has to exist. Some Pokemon just have to cost a point. Something has to be the least cost thing. We tried to put a couple of things in there that aren't horrible, but you know, there's a lot of horrible in it, so you're not forced to take one though. But sometimes just cap-wise, works out that you have to, right? This team looks good. The ground type weakness, is it a problem? I would say not really. Like, Torrentee is going to be coming to most games. Maybe it is now looking at it, because like Torrentee's your biggest guy. Like, Charizard can definitely come to some games. Serena will definitely come to some games. But Serena might come to more games than you expect because of the fact that you need her to. Just to be able to soak up some Earthquakes. Because he has kind of an Earthquake, you know, bait team between Tink, Raging Bolt, and T-Tar. Something to think about. Oh, and Monkey Dory, right? Monkey Dory is another one that doesn't want to get Earthquake. And then the Ice, we've gone over Ice. I'm not too concerned about the Ice anymore. We're living in a world where there's not as many scary Ice types, right? But speaking of a team of scary Ice types, let's talk about the Seattle Marinis. The Seattle Marinis back together with Beartic, and he went double bear. He's got Ursaluna Blood Moon. I was gonna say triple bear because Palmot looks a little bit like a bear, but it's objectively not. Okay, so first of all, let's deal with over here. Weak to ice, but we don't care anymore, right? We're living in a world where we're not afraid of ice types. We've moved past it. It's not 2015 anymore. Not everyone has Hidden Power Ice along with every other coverage move in the game. There's not, like, Curum's not floating around here. Ice type's not as scary anymore, guys. Let's move on. So that means he really doesn't have any big scary weaknesses to deal with, right? Even these things, like, flying is a little bit volatile because Probopass is his only thing and then he doesn't have any other resists. Maybe that's something, but, like, fighting, he's kind of split 50-50 on, but Slowking's going to be coming to a lot of games. I would imagine Darkspun's going to be at a decent amount of games. Talonflame's going to be there, really punish attackers. So probably manageable, right? Priority, stacked up, honestly. Really good on the priority front. Pretty good on the Switch Initiative front. All these Pokemon are going to be running their Switch Initiative moves. Especially this guy. Defog, he's got 2 Defoggers, and they're Pokemon that can reliably run it. That's great. And then Toxic Spikes, Stealth Rocks. Ugh. Not loving the Stealth Rockers after looking at it. This might be another team where you could probably get away with not worrying about hazard clearing as much, especially because if you stack up hazards, he's got to get rid of his own anyways. I think so. That's, you know, it's nice finding like people that typically have really good teams and finding issues with them. I like that a lot. I don't think I didn't have too much to pick on Zach's team. Zach's team's super scary. Let's look at the makeup of this team. Special attacker, he's got Ursaluna Blood Moon. You know, first and foremost, Hydreigon's a very scary special attacker. Like Draco Meteors and Dark Pulses don't tickle. And if you'd be like, oh well, I can just check it with a Fairy type. You turn out into Overquill. Tell me how you like dealing with that. Steel type's a little bit thin on that, but I think he's got really good opportunities with this team. Rillaboom's also super threatening. Like, Rillaboom feels like a and the other thing that's nice about Rillaboom, right? So, one of the drawbacks of it is the biggest boon and the biggest bane to it is it sets up grassy terrain, is the boon. And then the bane is it weakens all of your Earthquakes. Well, it doesn't matter. Nothing on this team really wants to run Earthquake. Like, maybe Probopass or Slowking is some sort of like surprise coverage move, but you're not relying on them by any means. I only bring up the Slowking thing because I got like I think James in season 5 or something, 4 or 5, tried to snipe me with Tectonic Rage Slowking. That's not really going to happen. Ursaluna Blood Moon, if it's using a ground move, is going to use Earth Power. So Rillaboom doesn't really limit anything on his team, which is great. And so it's all benefits. And then I already kind of alluded to it, but we saw him do it last season with Galarian Slowking. Regular Slowking, chilly receptioning out into Beartic is going to give him so many setup opportunities. And the fact that this thing can Terra, this is a Pokemon who I would imagine if Brett uses it well, we're going to be talking about taking away the Terra opportunities from it. It could happen. Like, I think Beartic's super scary. With the new loaded dice and Swords Dance opportunities and the boosted defense when Hail is up, definitely something to watch. And Ursaluna Blood Moon, like I said before, we haven't really seen much of it. I don't remember who had it last season. I think it might have been Drew or Zane. I think it was Zane. I don't think Drew made any changes all season. He just had the team that worked perfectly for him. I think it was Zane. We didn't see a lot out of Ursaluna Blood Moon, so who knows really what to expect, but if anybody's gonna tear people's buttholes open with them, it's gonna be Brett. Moving on, almost done here. We're right, we got 3 left. Okay, Detroit Steel Wings. Oh man, here we go. I can talk about Cyclizar. Cyclizar is a Pokemon that I always feel, it's what I've been calling a whiteboard Pokemon. It works so well on the whiteboard. Look, this thing's got knockoff, this thing's got taunt, this thing's got switch initiative, it's got regenerator, it's got rapid spin, it's got all this utility, but it's a Pokemon that when it gets in, if it doesn't have the matchup, it can't really do a lot of damage. Like dropping a Draco is the best thing it can do, or clicking Double Edge or something. Those are the scariest things it can do, and coming off these attacking stats, not that scary at all. So really you're just running U-turn, rapid spin, taunt, knockoff most weeks. So it's pure utility. It is like, it feels like it should be a mon that gains momentum, and it's a momentum sink. Because when it's in, you just get a fast U-turn off, and then you have to guess what you're going to go into. It's a little bit of, it's a challenging Pokemon, I think, to deal with. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have its benefits. I just think it is a tough Pokemon to use by that. Got a great speed tier, got a couple of things at 110. I liked what I saw out of Grafaiai last season. Espeon is always a Pokemon that is really scary just because of that big special attacking stat. And we can let this one Terra. I know that there's some leagues that don't let it Terra just because of like big setup opportunities it can have if it changes to a better defensive typing. Will we see that? Maybe. Ogerpon Wellspring. I love this Pokemon. I think the Ogrepons are really great because they have such like reliable stab moves. Like Ivy Cudgel, regardless of what type it is, just never misses, and it's typically, I think all three of them, you can hit something with your other stab that is typically resisted by grass, and a lot of the things like stuff that resists rock is ground type. Granted, I'm not talking about Wellspring, right? But if you had Cornerstone, ground types are going to come in on your rock move. You can Power Whip or Horn Leech them. Water, water types can come in on your Ivy Cudgel. You can Power Whip or Horn Leech them. Fire types, what's going to come in on your fire types? That's a good example for my point. Water types are going to come in on that, and then you can Horn Leech them. So I really like what the Ogrepons bring to the table, along with this one, only having the two weaknesses to Bug and Flying. That's not around a ton, and then it's got the immunities and good resistances. I like Ogrepon Wellspring a lot. Zapdos, really solid Pokemon. Heatran, just like that's another one of those super splashable Pokemon. It's just gonna be on a lot of teams, or sorry, I guess it's gonna be just coming a lot of weeks. 4x resists. Isn't that crazy? That's so many 4x resists alone. That's got another 4 additional resists and an immunity on top of that, and only 2 weaknesses. And 90, 106, 106 defenses. What a crazy Pokemon they cooked up. And on top of that, just 130 special attack. And doesn't even have like pitiful speed. It's just like, just a well-designed Pokemon. Not balanced, but well-designed, right? Alamalola. So he's got a little bit of a Regenerator core going on, especially with a flip-turning Alamalola. Look at all this fire. It's 6 U-turns. You could bring a whole team of U-turners. Just put you in the Vortex. And plus, two of the U-turners can set up spikes. That could be a problem. He's got Hazard Cling, he's got Rapid Spin, he's got Defog. Those tools are great. Priority's not super strong. He's got 2 Wishers though. Like, I think this team's actually gonna be pretty hard to break through between the Regenerator, the just generally bulky Pokemon. Like, these defenses, I mean, I didn't compare to everybody else's, but 84, 88, 85 average defenses, I think is pretty good, especially considering you have so many, like, you have 2, SPN's not a great Wish Passer, but you have probably, I would say, the best Wish Passer in the game in Alamalola, and the fact that it gets Wish, Regenerator, Flip Turn, like the perfect combination to just keep everything alive for a long time, right? Because either something comes in and threatens you, so you just hard switch to a pass, or something comes in and it doesn't threaten you, which means you get to flip turn out into a pass. And even when you wish pass, instead of getting 50% back from the wish, you can pass that 50% to somebody else, which is probably going to be much more than 50% because you have so much HP, and then you're still going to get a third back. Elmo is awesome. The only downside to it is how, you know, it's so passive. Like, you're running Wish, Protect, Flip Turn, maybe Scald. Like, you're gonna live and die on if you can get those Scald burns off. Otherwise, it's setup fodder. So, something to worry about with it, but it does have a lot of upside. Gliscor, another super defensive Pokemon, is gonna be a problem to deal with. Zapdos, same thing. Quagsire, same thing. Dusclops, I don't think we're gonna see come a lot. I'm prepared to be proven wrong, but there's so much defense on this team, and there's still also not like a lack of offense. I think Ogrepon has really good offense. Espeon's got really good offense. Zapdos can hit both sides of the. He's a switch hitter. He can play offense and defense. He goes both ways. Heatran, same deal. Decidueye, I'm not blown away with Hisuian Decidueye's offensive capabilities. But I also like what it brings to the field as a defensive guy because he's got that Edgequake resist. So I'm up in the air about it, right? Don't think it's bad by any means. Let's look at the weaknesses. Ice, we've decided Ice is not a problem. Dark, only the one resistant Hisuian Decidueye. There's a couple of scary dark types out there in the league. Tyranitar, Hydreigon spring to mind. That could be an issue, right? But I think just this team has so much bulk that is around, and he's only got the 2 weaknesses to Dark too, right? Like, it's just the Dusclops, it isn't going to come to a lot of games. And then Espeon, which, let's be frank, isn't designed to take hits at him. It's not like that's on a bulky Pokemon. So I think is this team like knockoff weak? Maybe a little bit, but you have to win their Hazard War for that to be a problem. And in addition to the fact that he only has 2, he's got 2 Hazard Clears, great. He's got Defog and Rapid Spin, great. Also has a Magic Bounce. That's something I really didn't take into account until late here. And then how much reliable recovery does he have? Synthesis, Morning Sun, Roost, not Roost. Wish I'm going to call reliable. I think this still gets Roost, and this gets recovery. He's got 6 reliable recovery things. And honestly, Dusclops, it's not the same. I recognize it. But its HP is so low that Pain Split usually ends up being decently reliable. So I think that's great. Moving on. Man, this is a long recording. But I got a lot to say. And you guys like long recordings, I think. I don't know. Okay, Curtis's team. The fairy weakness stands out to me. I've talked about fairy weaknesses on the team before, but this is kind of different because he does have 3 resists. Like, he just has a lot of weaknesses, but he also has a lot of resists. And then also fairies typically special attackers, and he's got a Chansey, right? So I'm gonna say less of an issue. Let's dive in here. Let's see what we got. Physical attackers, Rhyperior, very scary. Azelf, decently scary, but I just don't think it's got the scariest offensive move pool. Meowscarada, like, that's not a big scary attack, but since all of its moves are pretty much stab and it's got high base power moves, that's a little scary. So I think he's a little bit lacking on the physical side, which could come back to bite him. But I don't think it's the end of the world because Meowscarada is so good at it. Rhyperior is gonna force people to plan, and then Hitmontop. No, I'm not gonna Hitmontop, right? Let's move on. Special attackers. Azelf's a much better special attacker than this physical attacker. Walking Wake. My only issue with Walking Wake on this team is there's no real support to it. There's no rain. There's no sun. So I haven't seen a lot of Walking Wake just functioning in a vacuum as like especially offensive Pokemon. It can self-set and it's not even bad, but I do. Oh jeez, hang on. Okay, sorry about that. Back into it. This team is maybe lacking a little bit offensively, but it does have really great defensive Pokemon like Articuno. I actually think is pretty decent. Like, I know it's an ice type and it's got like some bad weaknesses to fire, electric, double the rock, and steel. Like those are a big deal, but it's very bulky. It's got Roost and it's got pressure to try to keep that stuff away. I mean, it lost Toxic, that sucks. And it doesn't even have Defog anymore, but it can just be like a hit sponge, right? And it's at a tier where you could Terra it if you wanted to. Hitmontop's not like a great utility Pokemon. He's got a lot of utility, like Fortress, Sableye, Chansey, Weezing, Hitmontop, Articuno, even Rotom Heat. I don't think he has a lot of big offensive punch, which he's gonna have a hard time breaking through the bulkier teams in this league. Good news is, he's one of the bulkiest teams in this league. Let's see. A plethora of hazard setters, a good amount of removers, even 2 spinners to like kind of better support these. Fortress is like awesome roll compression, the fact that it gets all 3 hazards, plus rapid spin, plus volt switch, plus it's one of those things we talked about with Orthworm where it's just like, hey, this takes a hit as long as it's not a Flare Blitz. I think it's great for that. A lot of U-turns, a lot of flip turners. He can definitely, if he can make the matchups, like if he can make stuff that beats things, he can definitely get them. But it's just, I'm concerned that there's not a ton of offense on this team. Like in Rhyperior, while it is his best physically offensive Pokemon, it's very slow and it's very exploitable. in terms of like just hitting it with a water or grass type move. And I think Rhyperior costs enough where you can't Terra out of it. Yeah, it's cost 10 points, so that's, you know, a little bit of an issue. I don't think it's a bad team, but I do think it's a really bulky team, and I don't know if the play style, like the pace of the league, I don't think it fits it anymore. Azelf's hard to really judge in a vacuum. I liked what I saw to Azelf. I think Jabron used it. I think it was Jabron who used it really well last season. If I'm giving Jabron credit where he doesn't deserve it, good for you and sorry for somebody else, right? So yeah, but it's got a great move pool. But again, I think he's more set on the special side than he is on the physical side. And even then, it's like he doesn't have like a big, scary special attacker. I think a lot of people are going to be like, okay, how do I deal with Masquerada? And then Walking Wake, I think, can kind of end up getting checked pretty easily since it doesn't have that support to really boost it to the moon with the sun. So it can run booster energy, but between that being a one-time use and the fact that it can't hold another item, I think it makes Walking Wake a lot less scary. There's this team, I would really be like, I think he's gonna get out offensed. It's something to watch out for. Good news is he's got a lot of things that, like, Chansey can shut down full teams. Like, there's just gonna be some teams that can't deal with Chansey once they have a few pieces gone. And Weezing and Sableye and Articuno and Fortress all can take the hits that you need to. Like, Chansey might end up being one of the bigger win cons. We'll see how that goes. Okay, last team got the London Dragonites. And Dakota finally got it, and he got it at the last pick in the first round. He got Roaring Moon. He wanted it for a long time, and now he's got it. Look at this average attack stat. Average attack stat's 100. You don't see triple-digit averages very often. Let's see if anybody else has them real quick. Nope. 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 Although pretty high on this team. Ooh, even closer on this team. Is it closer? Yeah, it is closer. Nope. Nope. A lot of 90s there. Oh, there's 100 in defense. That's really held up by Earthworm and Macargo and Great Tusk. Canyon even, geez. And no triple digits there. So seeing 100 in attack is a lot. So obviously that's helped out by this guy, and then nothing else just being super low. You have 4 Pokemon over 100 and nothing else being particularly low. That's great. I would say the downsides to that are Hisui and Zoroark, you're not actually attacking. You're attacking with Roaring Moon, you're attacking with Blaziken, you're attacking with Cleavor. Pomali you're not going to want to bring most works, and even if you do, you're probably bringing a more defensive role, so you're not attacking with it. Soon Decidueye, while it is over 100, 107 isn't anything crazy. I think these are your 3 biggest physical attackers. So while that 100 is impressive, a little bit diminished by this fact. On the special attacking side, a lot thinner. Primarina, great. Blaziken, yes, you can run it special, but I don't think it's got a very good special offensive move pool. Sandy Shocks, Hisui, and Zoroark, very good. I love Sandy Shocks. I don't think it's as good since it can't Terra anymore. It can really get just shut down by, like, it's weird. Like, I feel like a lot of Levitators already just happen to resist electric. Then on top of that, grass types, pretty abundant, although this team deals with grass types well, which is great. Primarina is, I think, very good, but let's talk about some of the issues I see with this team and its defense. Like, the good defensive Pokemon on this team are Bronzong, Weezing, and then after that, it's a lot of asterisks. Because, like, Regice is good on one side of the spectrum, and even then, it is an ice type, which is objectively the worst defensive type. So, not a big deal, but, you know, you gotta really pick your spots with Regice, which, you know, as cheap as it is, that's fine. So it's not like it's a big, you know, cost sink. Primarina can be defensive, but I would argue the scariest Primarina are, like the specs ones. That's the ones I always calc against. That's the one I'm scared of. If it's a physical, if it's a like defensive Primarina, actually a lot happier. Komala, not really defensive Pokemon. Right? Decidueye can be run defensively because it's got decent defenses at 78, 75, and at 100. And it's got that typing I really like. Plus it's got Roost. Plus it's got Defog. I think you're gonna see a lot of Spirit Shackle or Poltergeist. U-turn, Roost, Defog out of this Decidueye. So gonna be a little bit more defensive. So I'll give that a tick. The problem with these defensive Pokemon is Decidueye is the only one that has reliable recovery. That's a little bit of a concern. I guess Komala, does it still have Wish? It does. So that's nice. But, you know, it's I do think there's a little bit of a concern that this team can get chipped down pretty easily. Good news is, a lot of U-turners, a lot of Volt Switchers, even a Flip Turner in there. He's got the option to Baton Pass, although all the Pokemon that get Baton Pass also get U-turn, so why wouldn't you use that? I mean, he could try to like Swords Dance Blaziken's pass it somewhere. That could be scary. Little light on good. Like, I would say these 4 are good priority, but so no, that's actually pretty good. It's better than a lot of teams. Got a Rapid Spinner, he's got 2 Defoggers, and he's got like the auto Rock Setter upper with Cleavor. Something about Cleavor, which I should have mentioned about Hisui and Samurott as well. One of the things that's kind of a bummer about it is just like, oh no, I can miss Stealth Rocks or I can miss Spikes. Obviously, Ceaseless Edge is better than Stone Axe, just due to the fact that you can use it multiple times to still get like returning benefits. Stone Axe is a one-time thing, and then I think you'd rather be clicking. Maybe you'd rather be clicking Stone Edge just because it's so, like it's stronger, but it's also a little less accurate. Sharpness doesn't get the boost. I don't know. You can be the judge of that one. I think this team is a little bit weak on the specially offensive side because I don't know. Hisuian Zoroark's it got used really well last season. I'm hoping we can see Dakota come through with it again. But this is a very scary team. There's a lot of stuff to plan for. I'm a little bit worried about it getting chipped down. But I like a lot of the pieces he has, but there is something about this that I don't know if I see how the pieces fit together. It's just like, it feels a little bit like somebody went through like 5 different puzzles and took out some really cool looking pieces, but they don't all fit together. I can't really put my finger on what it is. It's just like a lot of I just don't see the synergy. Like, an example, I can give a hard example, because I feel like I'm just giving like vague criticism for nothing. Roaring Moon, having used it, a lot of people are going to bring in their fairy types, their steel types, to check it. I do, like, particularly fairy types are going to be coming in on it, because a lot of them will be able to take an item from you unless you're boosted really high. So fairy type's going to be coming in because it covers both your stabs and it even covers the U-turn you might want to go for. His fairy resists include Bronzong, which that means these fairy types are just going to be able to stay pretty healthy and switch out fast. And then Weezing, which Weezing probably has to rely on getting up poison or toxic spikes to really threaten these things, because it's just, there's not a lot of like, I don't know. I would have liked to see a fire type come because that also covers the steel types. Bronzong does that, but Bronzong is really passive. Because really all you can run on it nowadays is like Stealth Rock, Psychic Noise, Iron Head, Hypnosis, which is just kind of it doesn't gain you anything. And like that's an example of like there's not a lot of synergy there. Like I said, a lot of nice tools. These top 6 or top 5 offensive mons, pretty good. Primarina's going to make it to a lot of games. Speed tiers are decent. A little bit of a gap between 101 and 85. Could be a little bit exploited. Potentially like base 100 Pokemon, I think, can get away with running Jolly, like Modest or Adamant versus Jolly or Timid and still stay ahead. That's good for them. we'll see how Dakota does. It's his last time he was in the North, he struggled. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. I'd hate to see him get bounced down again. Okay, last thing. Let's take a look at the schedule. First week, no buys here in the North. Everyone's playing. We got Curtis versus Drew. What did I feel about Drew's team? Oh yeah, I liked Drew's team. A lot of good bulk stuff. Had some issues with Curtis's team that he can overcome. It's just, it's hard. Back to the schedule. That's still framed up fine. Logan versus Kyle. I don't want to talk too much about this because I have heard some of Logan's plans versus Kyle. Don't want to give anything away there. Zach versus Jabron. I had my issues with Jabron's team. I had a lot of praise for Zach's team. I think you can guess how I feel about how that's going. Kind of the same thing for Brett and Dakota. I don't hate Dakota's team. And plus, something I didn't even point out. No red boxes here. He's got more resist than he has weaknesses, which is great. That definitely can work to his advantage as long as he's got the ability to get in. It's like I said, it's just it just doesn't feel like it quite fits together, and I wish I could put more of a finger. It's like I don't see the code with it. Yeah, but I think that wraps this up. Wow, this is a long one, guys. Hopefully you like the long podcasts. Sorry for the weird cuts in the middle. I'm on call this weekend, so I was getting a lot of stuff, but I'm gonna hop off. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.